The James Show Podcast.
Man, this sounds like a movie. This sounds like it can't even be real. We have someone who was both a pro-Palestinian activist and an illegal immigrant targeting an ethnic minority in a terror attack. And not only, he doesn't punch them, he doesn't stab them, he doesn't shoot them, he sets them on fire. So I'm talking about, obviously, the Boulder terror attack now, where when we had the initial reports come down, I don't know if you do what I do on the weekends, and every once in a while you got to check your phone, going through X or Facebook or whatever, you start to see reports about it, and immediately when this happened, the Ann Coulter law, the clock started ticking. Because they weren't identifying the guy. They weren't identifying him by the color of his skin or his nationality or whether or not he was wearing a MAGA hat. No, we may never get to the bottom of this mystery. And then within a few hours, we kind of understood why, that they were slow rolling it. Aren't you tired of this happening? Aren't you tired of the media and the politicians and your neighbor and your sister-in-law and all these people who claim to be about victims? We got to protect the victims. You're just full of hate. Where are you at on this one? Where are you at on this one? Anytime another pro-Palestinian activist murders some of our Jewish Americans? Didn't this just happen like last weekend outside of the museum in D.C.? Why are the people who say that they're against racism, who say that they're against fascism and terrorism and being mean to people, and we're just the party of empathy, and they're the party of meanies and bullies. Where are you on this one? You should be livid. Right now on MSNBC, you know what the caption says? FBI director accused of weaponizing bureau for Trump. Can you get your head out of Trump's butt for 5 seconds and stop clowning yourself? Because on two fronts, you people look like fools. Another pro-Palestinian activist commits a murder. How many pro-Palestinian activists have to commit an act of terror before being pro-Palestinian is associated with terrorism? I would think it would be one. I know the rule for you would be one. I know the rule for Christianity would be one. I know if there was one terror attack by a guy in a MAGA hat, you would hear about it non-stop. Look how much they have just ridden January 6th into the ground and no one even died. Nothing even caught on fire. Here we have people dying and catching on fire. They're going to drop it in about 24. In fact, they're not even hardly talking about it now. How dare you talk about the FBI being corrupt over here when they were the ones who forced your hand and made you admit it was a pro-Palestinian illegal immigrant Egyptian Muslim? Yeah, there's a real problem with the FBI because the people on the ground in Boulder, the police chief, or who was that, the spokesman or the chief? Whoever did the press conference after this happened, the one I saw yesterday. We don't want to jump to any conclusions. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Oh, my goodness. He's screaming, free Palestine. Again, I should just put this on a tape and repeat it like every 2 weeks here. Let's take the religion. Let's take the context. Let's take the political correctness out of this. If we had this many terror attacks, if we have this many explosions and fires and murders where the assailant was yelling, roll tide, we would be having a serious discussion about the University of Alabama. But here we are at CNN. Well, I don't know if we can call it a terror attack. I mean, Jesus, it's just one guy that went crazy. I don't know if you can stain an entire group of people all across the planet just because the actions of one person. Well, it's not the action of one person. Now it's the action of many people over a long time scale, over a vast geography. When are we going to have this discussion? Because they don't want to have this discussion. Number one, this validates the fact that they're on the wrong side. This validates the fact that all the people who say, maybe we shouldn't be letting these Death to America pro-Palestinian activists go to our colleges. Maybe we should be revoking the student visas of people who are saying free Palestine. Why? Because people happen to get murdered after that. And this isn't like a one-off. This isn't an anomaly. This is now a recognizable pattern. Look, they're doing the same thing that they did to start off the year. Do you remember on New Year's Eve and when you were rolling into New Year's morning? There was the terror attack by the upset Muslim. And I'm not picking on Muslims here. It just wasn't a Lutheran, was it? Again, wasn't a Presbyterian with a grudge. They were just limited. Oh, can you call it a terror attack? This was from January 1st of this year on CNN. They're doing the same thing now.
I mean, I've sadly covered too many tragedies like this, and it struck me because normally you don't come right out of the gate and label it terrorist attack or not.
Yeah, you do.
Juliet, you say we're looking into all possibilities because it's so early. You don't really know. And there were these explosive devices. This suspect shot at police, hit 2 police officers. 10 people are killed, more than 30 in the hospital. I mean, this is horrific, Juliet. How do you see this?
Yeah, I just think the mayor made a mistake. Let's just, in some ways move on. It has to be clarified. I do not think she should have come out. You actually saw the people behind her sort of flinch. She was speaking as a politician and as someone who governs the city, that this was terrorizing. It was terrible. It was terror for those there. But we are now in the investigation. And
these people are trash. If you come out and you excuse terrorism when it happens in front of your face, when you're standing over 10 dead bodies on New Year's Day going, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. How many attacks from these people have to happen? And when I say these people, you're like, which one? Pro-Palestinian activists or illegal immigrants? Man, let's have both of those conversations. How many attacks have to happen before we have a serious conversation about these pro-Palestinian activists? Because you're not seeing it the other way. We've seen pro-Palestinian activists go pack the little plaza in front of the City Hall in Dallas a couple times. They've blocked this bridge over here by our studios downtown a couple times. And nowhere did a Jew come out of the bushes and set them on fire or shoot them in the back or run over them with a car. How much evidence do you need to know which side is the good side, which side is the civilized side, and which side is the barbaric terrorist? Because the evidence is going all in one direction. Someone yelling free Palestine. Well, great. That's no fun. That's not what I like to do on the James Show. I like to do fun stuff. I like to talk about some robber who hurt himself or, got tased and, fell in a bed of broken glass or something. I like to do fun stuff like what are the Mavericks thinking when they trade Luka? This, I don't like doing this. I'm tired of seeing this. And I'm tired of seeing, it's not just that it happened. It's all the apologists that show up immediately and start making excuses for it or dropping it. Because you have to hear about January 6th every damn week of your life for the rest of your life, it seems like. And that's the closest thing they have to right-wing rage or a right-wing terror attack. All the rest of them have been explicitly from a constituency that votes for Team Blue. And here we have the people who are constantly accusing you of being a bigot, you of being racist, you of being on the wrong side of the Israel-Gaza divide. And another story proves you right and them wrong, and you don't get credit for it. And that's ugly. That's an ugly thing to be exploiting the suffering from any conflict. But this is a double whammy because this is not just a pro-Palestinian activist. This is also an illegal immigrant. So again, we have another situation just like the jet ski accident last week, or accident, air quote accident. Might be a murder when all the evidence comes in. I'll tap the brakes until we get it. But here it is, 2 weekends in a row. I got to start on a Monday telling you about how if we had just enforced our immigration laws the way they were written, we wouldn't have had this loss of life. And instead of having me just tell you about it, the NBC affiliate in Denver talked to a witness who was there. This guy happens to be Jewish. And listen to what he recounts here. This is just a minute and a half. But this sounds like an absolute nightmare.
There was a woman that crossed the street saying there's someone throwing fire at people.
Brian had brought his niece and nephew to Boulder for a hike, never expecting anything like this.
The guy who had these 2 what looked like water bottles, but I quickly realized they were Molotov cocktails with like a red cloth sticking out of each one. He also had a tank of what looks like water, like a gardening chemical spray type of thing. He had a orange vest on as well, and people have said that he was using it as a flamethrower, so he was spraying it while lighting it on fire and catching people on fire.
The attacker shouting anti-Semitic remarks. Brian stopped recording long enough to call 911. With police on the way, Brian joined the effort to help those who'd been burned.
I grabbed one of their buckets, went to the fountain, tried getting water, like the cold water, to try and put on some of the other burn victims, which were about 5 or 6 others from what I could tell.
Police and paramedics arrived within about 10 minutes, Brian says, but not before he had witnessed the unthinkable.
Every one of the victims that I could tell, that I saw, had skin basically melted or hanging from their from their legs.
Thankfully, it all ended as police arrived.
And then when they got him in the vehicle, he shouted "Free Palestine." They told him to shut up and put him in there. And then we all stayed later just to give our testimonies of what happened.
So that was a witness on the scene. How heinous does it have to be before it gets universal condemnation? How bad? How many people have to die? How many people have to be set on fire before the media says, well, we might want to start tamping down our pro-Palestinian language here, or maybe we should start having a conversation about whether or not this is a terror group. They're committing terror attacks. They have an ideology that is shared by people on this side of the pond and on the other side of the planet. The activists are all predicated on the same conditions. Oh, we got to save the people of Palestine. Jews are evil. Yeah, we get it. You know, it's one thing to be racist. It's one thing to think Jews are evil. But when you start setting people on fire, when you start shooting people, I'm going to speak out about it. And for the media that is going to downplay this and ignore it and still point a finger at you and call you racist and call me racist and call Rush Limbaugh racist while ignoring this, you're trash human beings. I'm going to call you out too. I want to go back in the time machine again. I love having a time machine. They act like we don't have hard drives. What was the concern a year ago on MSNBC when they were predicting that there would be some politically motivated, some ideologically motivated violence, some terror? But they were predicting it was going to be you. They were predicting it was going to be white rural rage, more specifically Christian. And it's not just like they had this conversation. A couple of these eggheads got together and wrote a book. MSNBC thought, hey, that's right up our alley. Let's go ahead and slander white rural Christians as much as we possibly can. We'll talk to these guys for an hour on our weekend show. This was just from 2024.
Joining us now, Professor of Political Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy.
Calm down.
And Tom, we'll start with...
She's getting excited saying that, isn't she? White Rural Rage, woo! Yeah, let's slander country people.
Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? You would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country.
Are we setting people on fire? Because I consider myself a white, rural, Christian guy. Are we setting people on fire? How many people have we set on fire? Like zero? Like, because this isn't even the only fire incident. Not only like firebombing Teslas and Tesla dealerships and wasn't there like the Republican office in Boulder or something, somewhere around there, Fort Collins? I remember there was another firebombing of like a Republican office. There was the guy last year who was the Air Force cadet who set himself on fire yelling Free Palestine. You remember that? Set himself on fire. We're setting zero people on fire. We're not running over people in jet skis like illegal immigrants. We're not committing these attacks where, some Jewish people walked out of a museum. Better shoot them in the back while they're walking away. But people saying Free Palestine are. Anyway, let's go ahead with the White Rural Rage authors. Go ahead,
Second,
guys.
They're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of negative factors.
So your book was wrong. This is what you predicted. Hey, these guys that say XYZ and believe this stuff, they are the most xenophobic, the most hateful, most violent. Well, apparently not. Because in the year and almost a half since you've said that, there have been zero terror attacks from white rural Christians or white rural anythings. And every terror attack has been from someone that's a Team Blue constituency. Find me one that's different. Ever since they said that. And that was, if you want the date on that, February 28th, 2024, MSNBC. Just in October 29th, a few days before the election. Look out for those right-wing terror attacks. This is...
Intelligence agencies are warning of threats of violence in the upcoming election. In a joint intelligence bulletin, agents from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are warning law enforcement agencies that domestic violent extremists are seeking to terrorize and disrupt the vote.
Yeah, so when you said that, you were wrong. Whoever told you that from the government, they were wrong. You're all wrong. You're just slandering a majority of America constantly, and you're never held to account, and you're constantly wrong, and people are dying, and you're so concerned about white rural rage and right-wing terror attacks. Why aren't you concerned about this when you actually have terror attacks, when you actually have rage? Because it's non-white? Because it's happening in urban areas? Sick stuff. Another terror attack. This is a double whammy because it's both a pro-Palestinian activist and an illegal immigrant. So we have like a double terror attack here. It's an illegal immigrant Muslim from Egypt, went to Boulder and was setting Jewish people on fire. And some of them died in a fire. And the fact that this doesn't have universal outrage and condemnation, I think is almost as big of a travesty as a terror attack itself. How many times are you going to get slandered as, you know, a threat to democracy, or look out for those domestic right-wing terrorists, look out for white rural rage? Well, here's the evidence. Ever since they've said that, every terror attack has been from a Team Blue constituency, whether it's a school shooting or any of them. No condemnation on that side. It's garbage. It needs to stop. These people need to be called out, and they need to be shamed for the way they react to these. Steve in Weatherford, you're on WBAP.
Hey, James, you're spot on about this. The lefty liberals crack me up all the time. They've achieved it again today. The rural white guys, along with a lot of other people, are the very foundation of this country's ability to defend democracy, defend the Constitution. We're the modern-day Minutemen. In fact, a bunch of rural white guys back in 1776 defended the country against King George and his cronies. And so the biggest threat to democracy in America is just what we've seen in the last 4 years. Insider, crony, deep state operatives. They are the threat to the democracy, not all of us rural white guys out here living in the country minding our business.
Well, it's taken a lot of propaganda for this to fly. Show me a commercial where a white guy isn't the boob, or a white guy isn't the idiot. Show me like one of these home security systems where the guy breaking into your house doesn't look like me. Show me a movie where they've swapped out the racial background from the original source material, whether it's a book, you know, like the Hunt for Red October or whatever, and they've substituted in a person of color for a white guy. Like, they just don't do it. We're always the bad guy. We're always the idiot. Every married father in a sitcom these days is a mouth-breathing, window-licking idiot. And the people who live in these blue bubbles buy it. You know, there's people who put up videos saying that they're scared to go out in rural America because they're worried about their safety. Are you kidding? That's the safest place in the country.
That is correct.
All right. Well, I appreciate you backing me up on that one, Stephen Weatherford. Thanks for calling. All right. I'm not so crazy. Good. Coming up next is a story that sounds like it came out of the movies. This really does sound like, I don't know, Mission Impossible 28 or whatever they run it up to. So Ukraine had a bunch of trucks that drove in a bunch of different directions all over planet Earth. And at the same time, the backs of these trucks opened up. The top of these trucks just hinged open, and a bunch of drones came out. And now we're being told, it's being reported, that Ukraine's drones have knocked out a third of what they're calling the strategic fleet. So I think they just mean this one class of big bombers that Russia uses a lot. But it didn't just happen in the eastern province of Ukraine. It didn't just happen slightly over the border in Russia or even deep into Russia. It happened like in Siberia. It happened thousands of miles apart, but all at the same time. I mean, I don't want to like be celebrating destruction and war and whatever, but it's kind of cool. Impressive is probably the better word. War is not cool, but the fact that thousands of miles apart and coming out of several different trucks, there was a coordinated drone attack, and it wasn't completely successful, but it was successful enough that I'm starting to think the cost-benefit analysis from Putin, the tables are tipping toward peace. The scales are tipping toward peace, I should say. Because he's going to get a lot out of Eastern Ukraine. He wants more than he's being offered, or he would take the deal. But if this keeps up, he's got to think, you know what? We might just want to take the deal. But I don't know. Is this going to lead to a new escalation? Is Putin going to take this personally and overreact and respond with even more threatening and overwhelming force? Or is he just going to book his winnings and leave the table? What looked like a scene out of a Michael Bay movie, Ukraine launches dozens of drones all at the same time, thousands of miles apart. And the reports are it did some big damage to the Russian bomber fleet. Now, this is something that could tip the scales of war. I just don't know which direction. Is this going to tip the scales of war more toward peace or toward escalation? Let's ask Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. He's an expert in such things, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear weapons, and I guess drones now. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, sir.
All right, so some of this seems almost too good to be true. Like, could Ukraine really pull this off? Because we're being told they did it without the U.S.'s help or Trump's knowledge. Is that possible and or probable?
Sure, I think. But I think we're celebrating the underdog who just poked the wrong bear. I don't think this is going to help with the peace talks. Let me just run through the numbers, I think.
Okay.
The first is 117 drones launched against 4 Russian air bases, destroying about 41 strategic aircraft. Total cost to Russia about $7 billion. That was on June 1st. What the media is not telling you is that 2 days prior, the Russians launched a 400 drone attack into Ukraine. Kind of a tit for tat, if you will. It's drones are not going to win a war. They're not going to put boots on the ground. They're not necessarily going to influence Putin to do something that he doesn't want to do. I think this is, and I think that reflected the next day. So this happened on June 1st, June 2nd, were the peace talks in Istanbul, Turkey, that lasted only about an hour. Probably because they ruffled the feathers of the Russians, right? So, but the Russians did the right thing in terms of playing their poker hand. I think they released some Ukrainian injured prisoners of war and some human remains, some loved ones who had died in the war. So they're showing good faith. But again, it is my estimation that Russia is going to seek a peace deal after they've achieved their tactical and military objectives, and not one day prior to that.
Well, so that sounds like Russia's not going to quit after this. Do we expect a big Russian response?
Well, I mean, the Russians have responded in a large way the last 30 days.
You know what? Dig into that, because Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur, that's the first I've heard about the 400 drone attack from Russia on Ukraine. What did I miss?
It does not make the news headline, because you don't want to. It is my estimation Western media does not want to celebrate Russian success. They want to celebrate Ukrainian success.
Well, I don't want to celebrate it, but it'd be nice if we knew about it. I feel ignorant now.
Well, that's why you're talking to me, sir.
Exactly.
So let me tell you one more thing that caused me to raise my eyebrow, and not a good thing for Ukraine. And I can't tell you whether this is accurate or not. It was open source, but one article that I read, reportedly Ukraine admitted that this attack took about a year to plan. Are you kidding me?
No way.
That is not how you win wars. This attack should have taken no more than 72 hours to plan, to resource, and to launch. If it took more than 72 hours and closer to a year, our skills in Ukraine are elementary. But I think Ukraine suffers from the same effect that they have the last year, and that is they cannot recruit their young to fight for their own freedom, so they're left with whoever stays back. And that's not necessarily their brightest or their biggest or their bravest. And many of the bravest and the best stayed at the beginning of the war, and we're years into this conflict. They're just tired, and some of them are missing limbs. So it is not, if that is true, that's one data point, but that is not in favor of Ukraine.
So you don't think this is going to push Putin toward peace? Because there's reason to believe that if you keep putting these costs on him, that the cost-benefit analysis of continuing the war could make him want to quit.
Yeah, it's not part of the calculus, though. Putin does not have a retirement plan, right? Putin cannot leave his country. He is under war crimes
charges,
charges, right? So he can't leave Russia. In Russia, he killed people to get to the position that he's at. He has people beneath him that are trying to kill their way up to him. His retirement plan is in a cemetery. He doesn't go off into the sunset. Nobody's going to donate an island to him, and he's not going to enjoy a Napoleon sort of retirement. He is destined. I would tell you, this attack probably fueled the fire for him to continue the war. And there are some experts, I don't know if I share their opinion, I need to think about this for a little more, to escalate it. And what I mean by escalating it, there are some old reports that tactical nukes were prepositioned in Belarus. Nobody's been able to confirm or deny them. It's been kind of hush-hush, and all of this is open-source material. But it could push him, like a schoolyard bully, to pull out all weapons of war.
I don't know. Maybe we could talk Italy into sparing one of their islands in the Mediterranean and just end this, Dr. Jeffrey. Thank you very much for your insight. I'm going to have to read up some more on the stuff you talked about. So it gave me a lot to think about. This is Dr. Jeffrey Roeder from Rigaku. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good day.
And he's right. That's why we have him on. I didn't know all that. You didn't either, so admit it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, Elon Musk is leaving Doge. What grade do you think he deserves? I say their grade is incomplete, and I'll explain next on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
At work or at home, get breaking news, traffic, weather, and business information on our free app. WBAP streaming powered by InvestYRefi.com. That's invest, the letter Y, REFY.com.
Are you afraid that dental implants will look fake or unnatural? You're not alone. At Doctor's Implants, we hear this concern every day.
They take so much time and so much care into forming your smile to match you and to make things work for you. It is life-changing.
At Doctor's Implants, we specialize in the indistinguishable smile. Custom-designed full-mouth implants that look and feel like natural teeth.
They look so good. 100% better than what you expect it to be.
The indistinguishable smile is expertly designed to harmonize with your face and lips. At Doctor's Implants, every tooth is uniquely shaped to fit your natural structure, providing seamless integration. With expertly placed implants, you'll regain the freedom to smile with confidence, knowing that your teeth will look so real, no one will ever know the difference. Call now to book your free consultation at Doctor's Implants and start your journey to a stronger, more confident smile.
Call 469-515-8823. Again, that number is 469-515-8823.
Now for A Prayerful Pause, brought to you by Christian Science churches in your community. From the New King James Bible, Deuteronomy 4 and 1 Chronicles 29. Know this day and consider it in your heart that the Lord himself is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. There is no other. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power, and the glory, the victory and the majesty. For all that is in heaven and in earth is yours, and you are exalted as head over all. If you like this message, call and let us know at 214-HIS-WORK, which is 214-447-9675. Also, hear programs there on how God solves problems. Or go online to ChristianscienceTexas.org. That's 214-HIS-WORK or ChristianscienceTexas.org.
Hey, let's be honest. Most of us never even think about the garage door up and down until it breaks, and then it's panic mode. That's why I count on Wellborn Garage to keep mine running smooth, quiet, and reliable. Hi, I'm Brad Barton. I've been there. Rushing out the door, suddenly the garage won't open, or worse, it's making that awful screeching or grinding noise. But here's the thing. A broken or unreliable garage door isn't just annoying, it's a safety risk. And if you don't take care of it, you're looking at a way bigger problem down the road. Call Wellborn Garage. They don't just fix problems, they prevent them. With their 5-star maintenance, keeps your garage door running smooth, quiet, and most important, safe. And if something ever does go wrong, their vans are stocked with parts for same-day repairs. And here's the best part. Because you're part of the WBAP family, they have a special deal just for you. Just mention my name, Brad, and you will get Brad's Garage Bonus, $100 to use however you want with Wellborn. Whether it's annual maintenance or even some extra storage, they worked out a deal just for you. So do yourself a favor. Don't wait until your garage door lets you down and leaves you stranded. Scheduling is easy at callwellborngarage.com.
Open the door to quality and more. Wellborn Garage Doors.
Attention seniors, do you want more personalized health care with more one-on-one time with your doctor? Then join us at the grand opening of CenterWell DeSoto. CenterWell offers senior-focused primary care that's centered on you. Celebrate with us on Wednesday, June 11th, near the Walmart off Beltline Road from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Enjoy food, music, and more at this free community event. Plus, tour the new doctor's office and meet the care team. For details, visit ComeToCenterwellTexas.com. That's ComeToCenterwellTexas.com.